So we all line up, and in my head, I'm thinking, like, okay, Pam, this is your chance. You're lucid in a dream, and you get one question of this woman. Don't mess it up. And I was in a straight panic. I mean, because I was like, I have not planned one question. What's my question? What? And so I'm standing in this line. It's getting closer and closer and closer to this woman. In my head, I'm just like, don't mess up. You have one question. Like, figure it out. What are you going to ask? And the person in front of me leaves, and I'm standing in front of this woman who's maybe 4'2". She's so tiny. She's got this old, wrinkly face. And I just looked down at her and I said, what is my gift? What am I supposed to be doing? What is my gift?
Pam, welcome to the Dream World podcast. I'm excited to have you on the show. And although I do all this promotion for IASD and I'm always talking about them, and you're a part of my regional IASD group, which is awesome. I actually found Pam through TikTok. That's how I think I originally first saw your page, and then somehow figured out that we were in the same area, which I love. So anyway, welcome to the show. I would love to hear, your own intro, and also like what got you into dreams and becoming a dream expert.
Yes. So thank you for the introduction. Super excited to connect with you too. I know it's really fun when you find somebody across the internet and then you find out that you're actually regional or you're actually local, and then you can run into them in real life. It's pretty exciting. So I feel the same about you, Amina. Um, so my intro, I guess, is that I'm a dream expert. I am a certified spiritual director. I trained at the Hayden Institute, and I work with people at the intersection of dreams and spirituality. The reason I do is kind of goes into a little bit of my backstory. It's basically that what I have found is when somebody shares a dream and we get into like the deep, juicy, good, stuff, and we start to really dig in, inevitably, once people feel safe sharing a dream, they tend to go, okay, actually, I've never told anybody this, but, and then they share some other encounter that they've had, or a precognitive dream that happened, or a visitation dream that they had, or whatever. And it was like these dream conversations naturally lead us to the deepest places. So for me, spiritual direction and dream work go hand in hand. And just to clarify for everybody who's listening, I consider myself spiritually independent. And so oftentimes spiritual direction kind of wigs people out a little bit because it's either a new term that they've never heard of, or it is a term that they're familiar with, but they associate it with a particular faith. And so that's the most comfortable label that I've found for myself, is like I really sit with people in those deepest places. So it's the intersection of dreams and spirituality. That's where I'm most comfortable in the world.
Yeah, that's perfect. That makes sense. And I think that's a really important role, just like being this, spiritual mentorship. And I love the disclaimer about how it's just about, finding your own journey. It's not a dogmatic thing. I think that's really cool. And I love, like, part of when I started my podcast, I didn't really know, I knew that I love talking about dreams, but it's more so I wanted to just have that dialogue and that conversation so that people have, like, are comfortable talking about dreams and whatever weird things that adventures they have during the night. So, yeah, I think it's awesome that you do that. Do you dabble in like dream interpretation at all? Is that like something you're interested in? Like, what within dreams like do you find interesting?
Yeah, definitely dream interpretation for sure. That's where it started for me. I was in my own like dark night of the soul several years ago, and when my life was sort of falling apart and not making sense, dreams, of course, when you're learning in life, when you're going through the turmoil, dreams become stranger and stranger, whatever. So they showed up in my life, and I was like, well, maybe I can pretend that these things make sense. That's really a fun place to play. And so when I started my interest in dreams, it was a distraction from what was going on in my waking life, and I had no idea that they, in fact, of course, are sharing deep wisdom about what's going on in waking life. And um, so yeah, dream interpretation is the place I'm very comfortable with. I tend to teach people dream interpretation techniques, more than literally interpreting dreams for people. Because to me, once I discovered that this is what dreams hold for us every night, I was like, why did we not learn this, in school? Like, why isn't this a natural part of our learning, while we grow up? And everybody needs to know this because everybody has access to their own dreams and they should be given this skill. So I call myself a dream expert and I do offer dream interpretation sessions. But generally, what I like to turn out on TikTok and in my website and all of the different places is here's a technique that you can use to apply to your own dreams because people need to have their own access to their own wisdom, basically.
Yeah, I love that you offer them the tools. I think that's awesome. So like if you do have a session or you're talking to someone and you kind of you have like a very strong intuition about like a possible metaphor or something in their dream, or you're seeing a perspective, how do you offer that to somebody without it being like kind of like without it being like a direct thing? What's your approach there?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and I've been doing this for 2 decades now, so I've had lots and lots of opportunities to figure out what's my favorite language to use for those kinds of things. It depends on the person I'm sitting with, how open they are, and how well versed they are in the dream space, right? So there are some people who I have been working with for years. They understand that what comes from me are my own projections and that some of those might overlap with what's going on for them or whatever. And so in those conversations, I can be a lot more relaxed and, just basic back and forth of what if it's this, or, what's coming up for me is, and then I'll share whatever. With a new dreamer, I use a lot more language that allows them to understand that they can take whatever they want of what I'm sharing and leave the rest. We're just playing, right? We're just brainstorming and putting it all on the table. And my ultimate goal every time is to follow the dreamer's lead. So sometimes I have to throw a bunch of ideas out and then see where they tend to gravitate towards. But that's where the training comes in for me and the years of experience come in for me, is that there's a lot of active listening that I'm doing, where I'm looking and listening for clues that a dreamer, would, where their comfort level is, right? I can actually share an example with you about, and I've shared this example before, and it is used with permission every single time. We had a tragedy a few years ago. My father passed away quite suddenly, and my mother had this really difficult dream with him in it a few months later. And the first time she brought the dream up to me, she said, we were at dinner one night, and she said, so Pam, I had a dream about your dad. It was really horrible, and I don't want to tell you about it. I said, okay, you don't have to tell me about it, Mom. I understand. Thank you for telling me you had one. And we didn't push it, right? And then a few weeks later, again, we were all at a gathering, and on her own, I didn't say anything. On her own, she said, okay, I'll tell you about it, but I don't want to hear what you think. I said, yes, ma'am. Got it. We didn't even bring it up, but it was like hanging out there for her for weeks, and she was like, all right, I'm ready to tell you, but that's all. I said, okay. And then again, another few weeks passed. We were at another dinner. I even think it was maybe Thanksgiving or I don't know, some family get together. And she just leans over and she said, okay, I think I'm ready to hear what you think about it. Okay. So you just have to pay attention to where people are and how they're responding when it comes to working with their dream, because it's their material. So,
Yeah, that's such a sweet example. I agree. Like, all this dream work that I've been doing and podcasting as well. Like it's really a listening practice, like feeling out the other person, like seeing if they're ready, like how much they understand, because yeah, it's a process. Sometimes like we have to take our own time to process our dreams before we can allow other people to give their opinions and their thoughts. So
right.
yeah, it makes total sense. I like that. What's your personal practice like do you write down your dreams? Do you have any rituals that you do?
My personal practice, it's evolved over the years. I used to have like a much more regular, like I had a dream journal. I would start on page one and I would keep it all the way through the end of the final last page and then go find the next dream journal and do that. Um, and then for a little while, I switched over to voice memos on my phone. I'm like, this way I can just speak into the phone. And I've recently partnered with a new app on the market called Dreamigos, and the Dreamigos app has its own journal. You can have you keep your private dream journal in there. And so I use the Dreamigos app now to keep a record of my dreams. Um, but, but really, really over the years, I've come to be able to let some of them go. And also I've come to be able to, oh, how do I say? Well, you're going to know this with your like experience with the lucid space and the hypnagogic, you know, space when you wake up. I can wake up in the morning, have a dream in mind, and lie there and just let it kind of take up space in my mind and wonder about it and work through it. And I kind of, by the time I get out of bed, I've gotten not a good idea of like everything that it means, but I've gotten kind of a good start on the gist of the message, right? Oh, I can
Yeah.
see where this is connected. Okay, this is from that, or these are the pieces of the dream that came together. So it's changed over the years, I guess, is my answer.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's good. It makes sense, we evolve and we adapt to like life changing and new jobs, new kids, moving, all the things that we go through. So, yeah, that's cool. That makes total sense.
And yeah, I mean, the other thing too is that dream work is really, it's like art appreciation, it's a creative pursuit. And so all of the books, all of the great methodologies that are available and out there, like they're all good tools to use. And so for me, there's not one, there's like a million. And I just like to have them in my toolbox and then just let whichever one applies, come up on any given day, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure because it's like a lifelong journey that we always come back to or have within us, and just keeping that, dialogue with your subconscious. I definitely like to think about my dreams, even if I'm not like actively recording them or something like, or even if I haven't remembered a dream in a while, like it's always something that's like kind of in me at some point. So I think that's cool.
And it's true. And the waking dream now is also dreaming for me. So it's just available anytime I want to drop into that mindset of interpretive language, right? Of what is the synchronicity here? What is the message here? What is the symbolism or the pattern that's here in the day? So it's just I feel like now at this stage in my life, I have one foot in the unconscious and one foot in the conscious world all the time, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally relate. Yeah. I love that. I think the more we get into our dream world, we kind of start to build that like confluence is a word that, I've heard used that I really like. It's like that constant stream of connection between the two. So that's cool. I love it. You said something earlier too that I thought about how like, this should dream work and dream adjacent things should be taught early in life. Like, maybe even like elementary school, like this, imagine this being part of like, you know, a school curriculum, and it doesn't have to be complicated, but even getting kids used to like talking about their dreams and thinking about their dreams. Do you see like a future where that comes in handy, or like why do you think there's like some hesitancy on like a big scale to like adopt this kind of language?
Well, that is a big question.
Yeah, I know.
It's a big question because I think there's a lot of reasons in our history that dreams have been dismissed. Like we've been taught that not only does it not mean anything, but also we've been taught wrongly that it's dangerous to go into the realm of the unconscious and do that work, right? So we it just feels like a wilderness, that inner realm and that dream space feels like a wilderness. It feels like it's not safe, it's chaotic, and if you go in, bad things, right, or scary things, or who knows what's going to happen. So there are a ton of reasons I think for that historically. um, but I used to actually be an elementary school teacher, and we would teach these character education lessons where it was like teach children how to use, proper emotional language for when your feelings get hurt. You use I statements, and then we would role play these I statements so that kids could learn how to manage their emotions better. And I think that for me is the benefit of dream sharing and dream work, because dreams are, it was, what is his name? Ernest Hartman, who wrote and talked about how dreams contextualize emotions. And so for me, there's this natural marriage of, if I share a dream, there's a lot that we can explore about your feelings inside of the dream, right? And if I guess what I'm picturing in my head is like these elementary school kids, right? Of like, well, tell us your dreams. But when it's your dream, you're the owner of the emotions. You get to say if it was scary or exhilarating. You get to say, yeah, we went up in the roller coaster, but, it felt like we were still on the ground, right? So being in the director's chair and being the one who's able to express exactly what you were feeling, I think is maybe a really good place where dream sharing can be used in schools to help children, but also adults don't get character education. We introduced it in like the 2000s. And so I think character education, emotional intelligence, can be taught at any age level, really. So I think that's where the overlap is for me.
Yeah, you're so right. That makes so much sense. I think this is a key thing that can, that can really help society as a whole. And I'm glad we're kind of moving towards that direction of like treating kids with more respect in general, giving them more autonomy, a place to shine in the world. I mean, I think it's important. There are kids these days making millions of dollars on YouTube and have their own businesses, and like kids are shining these days. I think it's really
Yeah.
cool, just like within this new age of technology. So, I think they're ready for, some spiritual guidance as well. I think it does society some good.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it's spiritual and it's emotional and it's neurological, like it's mental, right? So, I mean, you already know this too, but like dreams are a continuation of your thinking mind. And so we're just thinking from the space of the unconscious as opposed to thinking from that waking mental space. And so the learning that can happen of like, oh, this is how my unconscious works is huge. And yeah, I do think people are ready for it. And I think when you, like, if when a child has a nightmare, instead of saying it was just a dream, it's an opportunity or an invitation to say it was a dream and tell me about it. And it was scary. And if you could imagine a different ending, what would you choose? It's a
Yeah.
it's a an invitation to have emotionally compassionate and intelligent conversations with anybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's a skill that can be learned early, and it practices like coping mechanisms with like hard emotions and hard situations because dreams like simulate, real life stressful situations or real life things you might go through, and how it's like kind of a practice of like how are we going to react to that. So yeah, I think it's a
Mhm.
tool that can be used really early and benefit. So I think that's super important. And you have a son too, right? Did you kind of raise him with like talking about dreams at the breakfast table and that kind of thing?
I did, yes, I did. He's like, "Well, I had a dream last night, mom," or I can tell him my dreams, and he sometimes will offer stuff up to me as well. So it's been um, a fun way for our relationship to bloom.
I love that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
being the person in the family where people are like, "Okay, I had a dream, and like I'm going to tell you about it. Like, let me go ask
yeah.
her about it." Yeah, it's good that they know. I love that.
Yep, yep, yep. And I just saw your face do something too. I think you and I have talked about this before. About this is one of my favorite things about dreams, which is that people tend to drop their persona as soon as they discover that you have an interest in dreams or that you can tell them what their dreams mean. Like they all just kind of put the uh, whatever perfectionist face they put on for the day or whoever they think they are in the world when they find out about dreams, they're like, ooh, I got one. And
Yeah.
so people drop deeper into this more like real and raw space when they're sharing a dream. which is kind of addictive to me. I just love
I
it.
know. I love it too, especially as like a dream guidance content creator, like in, out in the world, like even strangers who are like, oh, like you talk about dreams or you research dreams. That's so cool. Like, let me tell you about this dream. I almost have like this little bit of like responsibility that I can't necessarily feel because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I know what your dream means. I'm the expert. But then it's like, do you have like an hour for me to sit here and like really guide you through this whole process? So it's like I'm kind of in a predicament sometimes, but I do always kind of have this script of like, yeah, I love talking about dreams. Like you're the expert on your dream, but like I can help you through it.
Yes,
Have,
it is. It is. You're right about the sense of responsibility. That's such a good point. I had that moment in my career where early on it was just, I was trying to figure it all out, and at that point in my, it wasn't even a career. It was just Pam likes to hear dreams, or she likes to talk about them, or she always will look it up with you. We'll just Google it together. And then one night I was at a party, and kitchen parties are the best place to do dream sharing. Like late at night, people are like, "Oh
yeah.
wait, come in here, Pam. Oh, you got to hear so and so's dream." Um, and this friend of mine shared his dream, and what he shared, I knew exactly who the dream was expressing because he had said some story earlier in the day. And so I immediately recognized that that the story he had shared and the dream he was sharing were overlapping. So I knew what the dream was expressing from him, and I knew who it was about, and that person was standing right beside him. And I knew that was the moment where I was like, no, no, he's not really asking for help. He doesn't know what he's sharing. And I could see it because of my studies at that point and kind of understanding how the psyche works. And I had to just say, yeah, you're right. That is the craziest one I've ever heard. Yes, I have no idea what that one means, right? I can't imagine. Because that wasn't at all what they were there for. It was just an opportunity to share a story. And so there is a big responsibility to hold safe somebody's dream sharing, you know? And you learn it. It's just like you said, people will share, and you have to learn to be sensitive to what it is they're asking, what it is they're exposing, you know, and how to help them like keep it safe.
Yes, for sure. And I notice this on a whole of like spiritual growth as well. Like sometimes people need their own time to process what they've experienced, and to process the whole situation. And then maybe later there's a time and place to talk about like, hey, like here's some ideas about what that dream could have meant. But like you have to
Yeah.
consider the other person's perspective, like not just blurt it out in front of everyone. So that's a good example.
Do you have, like, I know you said you kind of have like a set script, right? Of like, here's how I'm gonna like now back out of this so that they can come to me if they want. They don't have to. Um, One of the things that I tend to say sometimes is like, are you interested in thoughts? Do you want some thoughts about that? Or did you, yeah, like, do you want to talk about it later, or do you want to talk about it now? Like, just kind of giving people the invitation of what it is that they're interested in. And oftentimes they do want more thoughts. And I will go to generic tips about dreams, or I will, like if it's a recurring dream, I'll say, well, here's recurring information about recurring dreams. And generally you can do some inquiries like this to again to go wide, like take a wide path around their personal intimate information. And it took me a long time to learn that I could trust myself in that space of like, oh, this is kind of how I consider myself a professional now, is I've had enough I've had enough practice that I recognize that I can trust my own response for people. I can trust that I'm reading their needs really well, you know, and I know all the different various ways to invite them into session, or to just say, hey, I'm happy to exchange emails or whatever, with them. So
Yeah.
it's a learning curve.
It is for sure. I mean, I think you're doing a great job of it. And like, dream interpretation has never been like my focus. Like, lucid dreaming is my thing, niche within the niche. So I always tell people that too. Like, I try not to even sometimes offer general things, but I'm like, hey, you can look it up. Just know that like sometimes general things help and sometimes they don't. And I tell
Yeah.
people, like, if you want to learn how to lucid dream and go get lucidly and ask about what the dream means to the dream itself while you're in it, then I can help you. Because there's so many ways to like look at dreams and analyze a dream. And, you know, I'm just going to
Yeah.
stay in my lane.
It's so hard, right? Because people come with the expectation that you're going
Yeah.
to interpret, because there is that learning curve too of, um, you know, we, all of us are used to just, I'm going to say Googling it, but at this point it's like ChatGPT or whatever, going to a
Right.
dream dictionary. Like your ego wants the immediate answer. Your
Yeah.
ego is going to want this equals this, right? And so that's what people are coming for. And the challenge for us is to turn the question around and kind of get a little bit deeper into, like, you know, uh, it's like if some, oh no, I'm going off script. But anyway, the challenge is to turn it around and ask a different question so that you can find out if they're really interested in learning about sleep and dreams and they want to spend some time learning it, or if they're really just looking for a quick answer, and then you don't have it, and then they're going to move on. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to say something, whether I'm right or wrong. I don't want them to think that just because I said something and I'm some expert or authority that like that they latch onto it, you know? I
Yeah.
usually, if I have time, like I'll ask clarifying questions. Like I'll kind of go into dream work without fully going into it. I'll be like, oh really? And then what they say, or did they notice, or what was the environment, or how did you feel? I'll just like ask questions back. And then a lot of times it'll unlock all these other memories. I love when somebody's like, "Oh, you just made me remember a different part of the dream." And I'm like, "Yes." That I feel like is a
Yeah,
win. And then they're like, "Oh, you know what? Now I have some thoughts about like what it could mean." And then like eventually they come out and like figure it out. So it's like I try to
that's
go
it.
that way.
That's it. You're right. Asking more questions, like sitting down beside them and being like, tell me more about it for you, right? Keeping them in the driver's seat.
Yeah, exactly. There's
Yeah.
so many like ways to approach it. I think it's just like whatever feels right because it's different if someone's next to you versus somebody you don't even know in your, request messages, So it's yeah.
It is different, but you're right about the social media world. With TikTok, I found that dreams are just a really good engagement topic to discuss, because people they want to come across, they want to learn the tips, they want to share their dreams. And it's a really great place to engage with the dreamer community and to find new people that are interested in the dream community, and just be like, right this way to the International Association for the Study of Dreams, like there is a group of people out here that want to talk about this all the time.
Yeah, I love TikTok as well. I feel like everyone there is like more just nicer and like everyone wants to just it's more diary style, like more community. So, every social media has their pros and cons, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
definitely get the most love from TikTok.
yeah.
I love that. So, is there like a dream that you can share, like one of your favorite dreams, or maybe something that stands out in this moment that like really, impacted you in some way?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had a few of those, deep life altering dreams. In fact, I'll tell you about my one lucid dream.
Yay.
I may have had, I mean, I could probably count them on one hand if I thought really hard, but I have one that was this really big lucid dream experience. So this was probably in 2014, and it was one of those vacation weeks during the summer where we're like at the beach for the whole week. So sleeping changes. I get all my naps in. I'm like fully rested and feeling good. And I had this dream where, um, okay, let's see. My brother and I walk up to this festival. It's like in a gravel parking lot, and there's this like tent, big setup for this huge festival. And so we go inside, and it's the inside of a lunchroom cafeteria when we walk in. And there's this amazing like steel drum band on the cafeteria stage, like performing. And I couldn't, okay, so I'm going to tell you this. The main drummer was so strikingly handsome that I couldn't look him in the eyes. And he was like staring into my soul. Like every time I looked up on the stage, I was like, God, he was so stunning. And my friend comes running over and she said, he put this all together for you, just for you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I couldn't even look at him. And right about that moment after she said that, this hush came over the crowd. And people started to whisper, she's here, she's here, she's here. And I was looking around, I was like, who is here? And at this point, somehow I became lucid. Like I started to realize I was inside of a dream. And I was like, well, who is here? That now I'm lucid and I get to see this dream character. And there was this very old, witchy looking elder woman. She was the wise woman, and everyone had come to see her. So she had just arrived, and you got one question with her. That's what everybody had been there. They were all together waiting to get their one question with her. So we all line up, and in my head, I'm thinking, like, okay, Pam, this is your chance. You're lucid in a dream. You get one question of this woman. Don't mess it up. And I was in a straight panic. I mean, because I was like, I have not planned one question. What's my question? What? And so I'm standing in this line. It's getting closer and closer and closer to this woman. In my head, I'm just like, don't mess up. You have one question. Like, figure it out. What are you going to ask? And the person in front of me leaves, and I'm standing in front of this woman who's maybe 4'2". She's so tiny. She's got this old, wrinkly face. And I just looked down at her and I said, what is my gift? What am I supposed to be doing? What is my gift? And she said, you are a dream seer. And then she handed me this intricately carved globe made of wood, about the size of a softball, that had you could see into it, and it was this carved fish, like this globe fish thing made out of wood. And she handed it to me, and I held it, and I was like, "But this is a dream. How do I take this with me?" And without thinking, I put it to my chest, and it sunk into my body, and I woke up.
Whoa, that's so cool.
That was my one lucid dream, and I just sat there, like I sat up in bed, and I was like, I need a journal.
No, this is crazy. I love how you knew how, like, intuitively, like, how to take it with you. I do that in dreams sometimes too. I'm like, how do I translate this? And I kind of see the gift or whatever as like, it's
Mm,
some metaphorical lesson that's imprinted into your, consciousness somehow. And then the
yeah.
lesson translate. And yeah, your gift being so dreamy, that's amazing. I love that.
It was. I did, after I woke up, I was like, okay, did I make that up because I'm into dreams, so I'm a dream seer? Like, is that an obvious response?
I
And
always think that too. It's like, did I just decide this is how my dream was going to be?
right.
But that's still pretty deep.
It is, and I've learned. I mean, you just trust it, right? You just trust what you think it is because that's how it works. And I won't forget the feeling of sitting on that porch that morning before the sun came up with my journal, with this like overwhelming awe of having somehow become lucid. I don't know how I did it. I wasn't practicing. It just happened, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm not waking up yet."
Well, that part is
Sweet.
powerful to me as well because I sometimes feel like, whatever higher power that helps orchestrate the dream, whether it be a part of us or something bigger or whatever you may think of it as, sometimes they allow us to be present for certain initiatory, ritual, spiritual moments in the dream world. And sometimes we spontaneously become lucid for them. A lot of people have, like, kind of describe this type of thing. And even for me, I sometimes, even though I get lucid a lot, sometimes I don't try. I just become lucid in an important moment of the dream where it's almost like required attendance, and they gave it to you.
Aw,
So I feel
I
like
love
that's the
that.
moment that you had to be lucid for. And, the fact that you haven't had many other lucid dreams shows the intentionality of that.
Yeah. It was years. I mean, it was years ago, but every time I see like a carving, like a wood carving or a carved fish, I'm like, oh, there we are. Like I feel like that is my soul's identity somehow, you know? Um,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I love that. Yeah, well, if you ever do become lucid again, you can try to find that thing and, look at it again.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's a good idea. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. I think I needed that
Yeah,
because
or
that.
find it in a dream. Lucid or not, you can incubate
Mhm,
it, see it
mhm,
again.
mhm. Yeah, I'm totally gonna do that now.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
it's in
it.
there somewhere.
Yeah. That's the thing to me about all of this and why the interpretation part almost doesn't matter. I mean, it is because it's the end, because that's how everybody gets into it, I think. Um, but it almost doesn't matter because ultimately what I've learned and what is true is that there's this other part of me, bigger than me, that is like you were saying, orchestrating the dreams, that is 100% trustworthy. Like, I've developed this relationship fine, but even if you've never looked at your dreams before, dreams are like right alongside you every night. Even if you don't remember, like, they're just right there. It's like your constant companion. It's this free source of your, like, deepest depths of your soul, and I'm like, who doesn't want to know that part of themselves, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. I mean, it can be like a dark journey for some people to really open this up because dreams won't lie to you, you know? Like it'll show you the good, bad, the ugly of whatever you got going on.
Yeah,
And some people they're not ready for that, which I
yeah,
understand. But, it's a journey that we all need to do at some point, and dreams can bring those healing gifts. Like even scary, traumatic dreams have like that opportunity.
yeah. The way that I like to explain that, I mean, is that they are, because you remembered a dream, it's available for you to be consciously aware of. So whatever the issue is that it's bringing up kind of the amount that you are able to digest right now, right? And I learned that just from, for me, that dark night of the soul period. It was infertility and trying to conceive our son, and it was, that issue was so big in my life at the time that it was completely unapproachable. I was in complete shock and denial and depression and all the hard things. And dreams, once I started, like, getting curious about them, and that's the other thing, is that when you go at something from a place of curiosity, you soften to it, and so you receive it better and easier. So dreams would create these wild stories that felt completely disconnected from me and unrelated to my life. And then I would go in with curiosity, and it would give me this side entry into one of the layers of the problem. You know, it was like, great, we're not going to deal with the whole life altering infertility right now. But if you look at this tangled knot, this one little string is loose, and you can work on this one little string, and then that's it. And then the next string would be like, here's another little string if you're interested, Pam. Like, it's this little gentle, like, nudging forward, even the really scary ones.
Yeah, our subconscious is so patient with us, I think, and like gives us little metaphors until we're ready to like let go of our beliefs and whatever's holding us back from like understanding ourselves. It's like our internal therapist. So yeah, that's why I always encourage people to start, thinking about your dreams, even with curiosity, or you don't have to, be scared or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Yeah, I love that. So, what do you have going on in terms of like anything local or online? Like anybody that's listening to this that is in like the US East Coast region, that's kind of where we're at. So,
Sure.
definitely follow us and see what we got going on.
Yeah. So I'm all over social media. At Sweet Georgia Pam is my name on Instagram and TikTok. I'm also on Facebook still. But I also created a private community that's free for dreamers. And honestly, I use the Mighty Networks platform. It's called Pam's Place. And I have to say, it's my favorite place to put new inspired information. So I add, like, dream articles from news media outlets that I come across, and I'll add learning modules in there and dream tips. And I've got all sorts of stuff in that little space. So I would encourage anybody who's interested to join Pam's Place, because, again, it's just a free community. Um, but yeah, I kind of can't help I'm just like you. I can't help content creation and talking about this, so I'm always going to be out there churning out more stuff. Um, so yeah, that's what people can find. They look for me, I guess.
I love that. We love free resources and a free place to just share and, see what people are talking about. So, yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
you do.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Cool. I just joined in there. So,
Oh, yay!
yay.
So glad. Yeah, the thing I like about it too is that it's not just like a newsletter from me to somebody in their
Hmm.
inbox. It's this community forum so everybody can connect with each other. Or my favorite thing, because I have ADHD, is that I get these little notifications on my phone every time somebody asks a question or has a comment. And so it's just the quickest way to get in touch with me if you want to, explore your dreams and you have more questions or whatever. That's the place.
I love
And now
it.
you know that Amina's in there too, so you can go connect with both of us.
Exactly. And I'll post the link in there when we publish this.
Nice.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you for chatting. We pretty much hit everything that I wanted to ask you about. But if there's anything else that you want to mention or close off with, I'm happy to hear that too.
Now, here's what I will say, and you can decide whatever you want to do with this, but you are very, very good at effortlessly just throwing in another question and another.
Oh,
Like,
thank
you are
you.
such an excellent podcaster. I have done shows. I know you've done shows before too, different podcast shows, whatever. And you're just very comfortable and natural, and it just rolls for you. So you've made it a very enjoyable, easy conversation for me.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. That honestly means a lot because, yeah, even I'm still shy, like behind all the podcasting. It's hard for me to get out there and put myself out there and talk to people, but you have such good energy. So you made it easy to talk to.